In follow-up news from last week, the Tennessee women have announced a new head coach, Kim Caldwell from Parkersburg, West Virginia. Caldwell played her high school ball at Parkersburg South High School, played collegiately at Glenville State in West Virginia, a D2 school where she coached also for 7 years with a 191-24 record. They won the 2022 national championship. 3 years ago, she was named she received the Pat Summitt Trophy for the Women's Basketball Coaches Association Coach of the Year.
Fitting.
In her 1 year at Marshall, she led the Thundering Herd to a 26-7 record, the Sun Belt Championship, and a berth in the NCAA tournament where they lost in the first round to Virginia Tech. Brandon, I know you're excited about this, and we're glad to have you back on. And you're excited for multiple reasons. Number one, it's Tennessee. Number two, Caldwell is from where you now live.
Exactly. Like, what a small world. I mean, yeah. I'm here in the Vienna Parkersburg area in West Virginia, and I teach at a school that's just right down the road from where she went to high school. It's kind of just, it's crazy how that worked out.
That's awesome.
Now I know last time I was on, we talked about who I thought would be good fits. I mentioned a few names, but it definitely wasn't Kim Caldwell. I mean, like who? I saw that on the bottom line on ESPN. I was like, "Who is that?" So I immediately got on my phone and Googled, and so far I am impressed, and I am so glad that Tennessee took a leap of faith and stepped outside of the box, stepped outside of the program. I mean, and hired a coach like her. You know, her biggest knock is her lack of experience in D1 basketball. But like Ben said earlier, I mean, conference champions in her first year. And what's even more impressive is that she had an amazing career at a D2 school, head coaching careers at 7 years at Glenville State. You know, a lot of times when coaches progress, they might be a head coach at a D2 school, then become an assistant coach at a D1 college, right? But she jumped in right as a head coach at a D1 school, Marshall, which is highly competitive conference. I mean, and turn that program, you know, complete 180 in one season. It's impressive. Her offense is fast. They shoot a lot of threes. They play like they remind me of like Press Virginia defense. I mean, they really hound the dribbler in this case. And I think that's the perfect style of play for SEC basketball. During her press conference, I think it was today or yesterday, they said, "Are you going to change your style of play?" And she was like, "I wouldn't be here if I'm going to change my style of play. Like it's going to work. It has worked. It's proven." And I think it's going to be a good fit for the style of play that most SEC teams do. I am so happy. I was, like I said, you know, I was taken aback at first because I knew it was going to be Kara Lawson. I knew they were going to hire her. Like I was just like ready for it. And then when I saw that name, I wouldn't say I was disappointed by any means, but I was just kind of surprised. But man, I'm looking forward to her turning this program around. One interesting thing, well, two things about her press conference. She addressed the elephant in the room. She said, "I am not Pat Summitt, and I will never be Pat Summitt." So I love how she's humble like that. But the most interesting thing to me about her contract is, if she wins a national championship, she is in her contract guaranteed to become the highest paid women's basketball coach in the country.
Wow.
That's pretty good incentive. Wow.
Yeah.
So they win the national championship in early June, roughly next year. By May 1st, she will be the highest paid coach in the country.
Wow.
Wow.
So is that in your contract, Darren? If we become the highest rated podcast,
thankfully it's not in Brandon's contract after the week he's had last week.
Yeah, Brandon, you've galvanized the Tennessee women's basketball base.
Exactly.
And I've of course got my Lady Vols hat
Very
on.
nice touch. Very nice.
I'm not just a guy on here saying that I like basketball, women's basketball. I really do.
Brandon, tell everybody about when you got that hat, because I thought that was a really cool story.
Absolutely.
So I bought this hat when my daughter was born. She just turned 8, so this is an old hat. But I was like, well, I've got a daughter now, and she's going to play for the Lady Vols, hopefully. So I might as well start now. Get me a hat.
I love it.
But man, I am just so excited. Like everywhere she has gone, she is a winner. I mean, she won a national championship in like five years or so. She won a national championship. So if she can do that at Tennessee, like say she wins a national championship in the next 5 years, like she'll be the greatest coach in the country.
Yep.
I mean, there's no doubting that. And hopefully she'll have a freaking 20-year career like Pat Summitt did. Another positive thing about her is, I don't want to sound ageist or whatever, but she's only 35 years old. I mean, she graduated high school in 2007. So I mean, she's young. She's got a lot of years ahead of her, and hopefully a lot of good years wearing that powder blue and orange. Like, I mean, I just can't get over it. I am pumped. I know the season just ended, but I am ready for it to start again for sure.
And she obviously is not shy about taking on a challenge. She's just entered the SEC, where I think the best women's college coach is found, and that's Dawn Staley and what she's done at South Carolina.
Absolutely.
So I love the fact that Caldwell didn't shy away from that. Yep. It's going to be fun to watch and see how Tennessee responds to her and what they do. Now, Darren, I know you're a Vanderbilt fan, and Brandon is off the charts excited about this hire. So from your perspective, give us a little bit of your analysis on why is Caldwell a good fit for Tennessee?
Well, I tell you that I'm unexcited about the hire for obvious reasons. But I tell you a couple of things that really stood out to me because talking about looking at how the Marshall program turned around in just 1 year under her coaching, one of the things, or a couple of things that stood out to me, was the fact that I think their margin of victory doubled. It's not just wins and losses. When you kind of dig into those wins, their margin of victory doubled in the first year in her system, and their points per game went up almost 17 points a game. Wow. In just 1 year under her system, which means that it not only obviously is a system that works, but it's a system that players can jump into, understand, and obviously enjoy, because that's a key component of grabbing onto a system that quickly, that not only do you understand it, but you got to kind of enjoy it, because that makes it really kind of click. And very obviously her system that she runs does that. For those two numbers to really stand out like that, I'm thankful that Vanderbilt got Shea Ralph when they did, because it looks like we might be looking at some years where that Vanderbilt-Tennessee women's basketball game means what it used to a few years back, when it was really an absolute fight. And, regardless of who you're a fan of, whether it be Vanderbilt or Tennessee, that's good for the SEC when that game means something, when it takes place, when those two schools are elevated. That's a positive thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, when Vanderbilt and Tennessee basketball are good, that's when the SEC's at its best.
Absolutely.
There's no denying that Tennessee, or excuse me, the SEC could be the best women's college basketball conference.
Absolutely.
They already pretty much are with South Carolina and LSU, but when you add in Tennessee as a close second to those two, or maybe hopefully surpass them eventually, man, it's exciting. It's exciting.
I love it. I love it for the conference. I love it for the sport. I mean, it's just going to be so surreal when Tennessee and LSU play. You got Coach Mulkey in the last third of her career or whatever, and then you got this 35-year-old Kim Caldwell at Tennessee, and it's the torch eventually passes, and but yeah, I hope that she does well there.
Yeah, agree completely.
I saw a clip of her today meeting all the other head coaches from the various sports at Tennessee, and the way Rick Barnes approached her, and he shook her hand and gave her a big hug like that. That was so cool to see. Saw her laughing and joking with Josh Heupel, and I mean, it was just, oh man, it just made me smile ear to ear. It was awesome to see. She fit right in with those guys.
I tell you what, it's hard for me to say this about somebody that coaches at Tennessee. I'll admit that. But I wouldn't care if I was the water polo coach at Tennessee. One of the first things I would do when I stepped on the campus is try to figure out how I could get 10 minutes with Rick Barnes every single week. Can I just have 10 minutes just to sit down and you just talk? I don't care if it's about your driveway. You just talk. If I can get 10 minutes, it's going to make me better. I want that 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, we will keep tabs as Kim Caldwell transitions to Tennessee and keep up with that. And Brandon, I mean, I get you guys confused. I don't know why I get you confused. But Brandon, we will definitely be reaching out to you again with any news that comes out of Tennessee. You are our go-to person for Tennessee.
Oh, cool.
So thank you for being on the show. I know your son had his first T-ball practice today, so you're a busy man.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so we appreciate you coming on, Brandon.
Awesome.
Yes, thank you.